the first 40 days or 35 days they spent in this very high security prison. But when after Sadat was killed, and they wanted to use this prison to put the criminals that killed Sadat and all the Muslim brotherhoods and all their sects in it. So they moved the clergy out of it and moved them to a different area and whatnot. And then they brought them back 45 days later, but not to the cells, but rather to the outside jail. So less security.
Right.
And when they did that, they had them in kind of a bunker. So all of them together. This is when we started going to visit. So I think our first visitation happened after maybe 3 months or 4 months after Dad was taken.
And how old were you at the time?
I was, that was 1982. That I was 14, 15 years old.
And do you think that experience kind of shaped your perspective on things? Or was one of the experiences that might
I
have?
am pretty sure it did, whether I realized it or not, but it was a very difficult time for a teenager.
Right.
Because we were put under so much pressure from the time that they came and took him from home till he came out. It was a very emotional time, and there was a lot of stress happening on all fronts. The travels from from Alexandria to Cairo, many times every month, trying to do visitations. And then they also played a very psychological game. They would tell you that, okay, they're going out, they're going to release them today. So you get so excited and you get in your cars and you leave and you go to Cairo and you stand in front of the jail the entire day waiting for them to come out, and it's like, oh no, sorry, we're not coming, they're not letting them out. So you go back to your old mood of sadness. And then we were told that the first visitation would happen on October 6th, which is supposedly the day they celebrate victory.
Right.
So we traveled to Cairo, and I remember that clearly, and we were sitting in front of television watching the parade, and then Sadat got shot.
Wow.
And when he did get shot, we got shot because we couldn't, there was no, we couldn't go visit anymore. It's been a month. We haven't seen or heard anything. So we couldn't go. So we went back home. And we stayed the period of, I would say, there was the first period about 40 days where they spent in a certain jail in Cairo. And then they were transferred to a separate jail or a different jail in Wadi Natrun in front of Abu Ma'ar Monastery. Now, this first jail was basically cells, and it was a more concentrated jail. So it's a jail inside a jail. So the cells were very narrow, and they're like, as they measured them, it's 1 meter by 1.7 meter. And you would have 2 or 3 people in there, and just a hole in the ground as a bathroom.
And can you maybe touch on the imprisonment part? How did that affect you growing up?
This was a very difficult time on the entire church.
Yeah.
There was a lot of ambiguity on what would happen. But to give a little bit of a perspective on this incident, this time, or that era of time, Christians were being persecuted loudly and clearly everywhere. to the point where, Alexandria University has dorms. So people from other cities, at that time there weren't too many universities in Egypt, so a lot of people would be coming over to the main cities for school.
Okay.
So the students in the university would be in the dorm that have no home in Alexandria, and we were accustomed to them coming knocking on our door at night, 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, bleeding from an attack. So they would, fanatics would, even within the dorm, would attack the Christians, beat them up, so many different stories. Excuse me.
And this was a regular thing?
So that was a regular thing that, our door would be, someone would be knocking at that door at 3, 4 a.m. 1 or 2 of these students that have been attacked, and dad would take them and would go, to the governor or any other officials, and to try to remedy the issue and take care of it. So on that day when we woke up, it was like, "Where's Dad?" It was like normal. He went to the governor or the governorate or whatever. Incidentally, at that time, I had a couple of priests that are in the diocese with us today. They were still laymen as deacons, and they were sleeping in my room. So we woke up in the morning, it was like asking where he went, and my mom said, he left with the police at 3 o'clock in the morning. A couple of days later, this was, not a couple of days, the next day actually, because this was, Thursday, really early in the morning. On Friday, we do see his name alongside a couple of other people, including Mbab Shoy and Abu Natadros, on the first page of the newspaper, the government newspaper, that they were being taken into prison.
Right.
Now, there was a lot of ambiguity at the time as like, what's going to happen? Where are they? What did they do? Any of these questions were not answered. So there was no clear answer, or there was no answer at all, actually, as to what's going on.
Right.
This was September 3rd. September 5th. So that went on TV in a congressional meeting to put a lot of the incidents in perspective in front of the people. Some of which that he has taken measures due to the issues that is happening between Christians and Muslims. So he has taken Christian leaders into prison as well as Muslim leaders, the people who thought to be the igniters of the issues. But in reality, it's anybody who had a voice or anybody who had any kind of popularity. Now, this first jail was basically cells, and it was a more concentrated jail. So it's a jail inside a jail. So the cells were very narrow, and they're like, as they measured them, it's 1 meter by 1.7 meter. And you would have 2 or 3 people in there, and just a hole in the ground as a bathroom. And you lived in that 23 and a half hours out of 24 hours. You had half an hour of recreation to where you got out of there and you walked around for half an hour. Wow. Now, these cell walls are solid iron, and they're very high, and they have no covering on top. It's just a mesh. So imagine the heat of Cairo in September and all the insects you can ever think of, because this jail is around a farmland. So, mosquitoes, well-fed mosquitoes coming in, and the heat the entire day, and sleeping on nothing pretty much. It's they have what they call a mattress. It's I think this rug is thicker than that mattress, and 2 or 3 people in this tiny little area, and obviously no privacy, nothing at all. And the food is as disgusting as they ever could be. I don't want to get into gruesome details, but it is really disgusting. Completely, they bring it in buckets, and their hands are filthy, and they're using like a plate or something to scoop with, and it's all on top of it. It's beyond human. So it's completely inhumane.
You think it was just to deter the message they were sending?
Well, there is more than one message, and you can hear different messages from different people. But one of the messages they had was that this was a balance, to balance between Christians and Muslims.
Wow.
But the reality of it is that none of the people that they took on the Christian side, I don't know about the Muslim side, but all I can speak about is what I know, is that they had no accusation against them.
Right.
There's nothing that they did. You know how priests and bishops are. They just serve.
Yeah.
They're not into politics. They're not into any kind of argumental issues. They're not into, they don't, gather people to go on strikes or to go against the government or to do any kind of rebellious movements. It's not their job.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing is that the entire government was anti-Christian. So you would not see any Christian being hired in a high rank, whether in police or in government or in any schools, government controlled. At that time, there was nothing but government controlled schools.
Yeah.
So, and that's been the case since the 70s. They wanted to use this governmental building. Once they felt that this is going to be a church, they built a mosque right there. So they wanted to build a wall between them, just to avoid any kind of conflict or clashes or anything. And it was November 16, 1975. And there was a bomb that was put in St. George Sporting. November 16 is the Feast of St. George. And that bomb was put in a very articulate way.
Yeah, the more I hear these things, the more insane it is to me that the type of stuff that the churches in Egypt go through.
Yeah, it's a lot better nowadays. I'll tell you this much. They spread rumors that in 1975, Abu Nabshur Kamil is the one who put the bomb in the church.
Wow.
It's to that extent.
Yeah.
It's to that extent. And I don't want to get into the details of the incident of 1980. But again, when they questioned the officer that took the bomb, after it happened, he said, "I didn't see anything. All I remember is I came to church and I fainted and I went to a hospital, and it's a governmental hospital, and here's the official letter from the hospital that I went there and I was treated and I came back." So
And do you think
I haven't seen anything. I don't know anything.
And do you think people like that are more afraid of like the repercussion if they do speak the truth?
I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of anyone, but
Right.
I'm just stating facts.
Yeah.
So the fact is, he was lying through his teeth.
Right.
And after that was done, my dad said, like, wait a second, this is a lie. And the reason is because I went down, I spoke to him, he saw everything, and here's the proof.
Right.
And he took, you know, the
Yeah.
shells out and put it on the table in front of the Attorney General.
Wow.
And I'm just like,
There's no denying that. Yeah.
it's like, so the you know, the guy who's asking questions, it was like, okay, so this is really mesmerizing here. There's a problem.
Right.
So he called the officer again. I was like, what do you think of what Abuna said? And he's like, he's saying the truth. He's like, Abuna's saying the truth? Then why, you know,
Right.
this is ridiculous. You're an officer of the law. You've studied law. You understand that you keep the evidence till, you know, the police comes and takes the
Right.
evidence, right? You don't give the evidence to anyone.
Right.
And one of the traits of Father Luka is the truth. And truth is Christ. And when you have the truth, you do not fear anything or anyone. What Pope Kyrillos saw in him at the time he wanted to ordain him, we don't know, right? The relationship between them, what we know, is very superficial. But the reality of it, it is a lot deeper than, you know, what we can recount.
Right.
These kind of relationships, they never speak about. Because usually, if you speak about it, it goes away.
Wow.
So the little things we know, I'm certain there's a mountain of things that we don't know.
Right. Right.
It's like an iceberg, right? You only see the tip, but the bottom is humongous.
Yeah.
That is his relationship with Pope Kyrillos. And obviously there are many stories that reflect on this relationship. He spoke about it in many of the recordings of how he dealt with the Pope. Also, Pope Kyrillos' schedule starts at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. where he wakes up and goes down to pray Tasbih. So at the first couple of days, Dad would hear his footsteps, so he would get up and go follow him. So Pope Kyrillos would say, don't do this again. Get a full night of sleep. You wake up 7, 8 o'clock. You don't come that early.
Why do you think he did that?
They don't attain such level in no time. It's a gradual progress and growth.
Right.
And he said why, the reason for it is like, you have a long way ahead of you.
Yeah.
You cannot sustain this.
That's interesting.
And so you don't just follow blindly.
Right.
It has to be guided by a spiritual father that would tell you, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So we can't go read about how Pope Kyrillos lived and try to live this life without starting from the ground up.
Right.
So you need to have the foundation to be able to withstand this high of a high rise.
Yeah.
That's a high rise. You cannot decide to do the high rise without the foundation.
Right.
So it has to start from the foundation.
Can you tell me maybe a bit more about the experiences with Pope Kyrillos and Pope Shenouda?
Well, Pope Kyrillos is, their relationship is very unique. Father Luka used to resemble it like an old man who gave birth to a little baby at his old age. So he would basically spoil him.
Yeah.
That's, you know, what the old man would do to his, you know, newborn child. So this is the friendship that they had together. He stayed with Pope Kyrillos the entire 40 days. whether it was in the monastery or at St. Mark Cathedral in Alexandria. He gave him and handed down every right to him. And I don't know how to express this, but it was his father. So St. George Sporting had actually 3 bombs. Only one went off, which is the one that happened on January 6th at night during the liturgy. Wow. And these were 7 sticks of dynamite. And it took down the entire, all the windows. There were, plastic woven windows. It took down all this. This is on the women's side. It took it all down. So this was like the blast took it away. But thank God there weren't many injuries in that incident, except for the person who tried to basically stomp on it, trying to put it out. And when it blew off, it took out 3 of his toes. Yeah. Other than that, there were minor injuries from the blast for a few of the people that were standing around. But I'll tell you this. This liturgy, I can never forget. In my whole entire life, I have never prayed the creed as strong as that night. You could feel the structure of St. George Church moving as people were reciting the creed. It's one of the most heavenly liturgies we've ever prayed. I mean, after the bomb went off, after the dynamite went off, Dad went down and basically spoke very firmly with the officer who was standing over there, just letting the traffic go through. And he took the empty dynamite sticks from him, put it in his pocket, went back to pray the liturgy. So he had it in his pocket throughout the entire liturgy. And it was a long story about how police behaves in Egypt in such situations. I don't think it's time for it here, but it shows the deception and the unbelievable carelessness and their evil ways of doing things toward Christians.
So I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about Father Luka, which is your father.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you give us a little bit of history and maybe how it was kind of growing up?
He was ordained in 1967 by the hands of Pope Kyrillos at St. Mina Monastery on March 17th. And he served at St. George Coptic Orthodox Church in Sporting alongside Abuna Bshoy Kamel and Abuna Tadros Malati. 1977, he came and served here in Los Angeles at St. Mark for 2 years. After Abuna Bshoy passed in 1979, His Holiness Pope Shenouda of blessed memory asked him to go back to St. George in Alexandria because, the passing of Abuna Bshoy was a great event that happened that he needed to be back in Sporting. So we went back for 10 years from 1979 to 1989, in which there were so many incidents that happened, starting with, there was a lot of turmoil in Egypt, and there was a lot of issues between the people, Christian, Muslim confrontations, mostly attacks from fanatics. One of which was the bomb or the 7 sticks of dynamite that were thrown at our church while we were praying the liturgy Christmas Eve. That's 1980. And then the imprisonment that happened in 1981. He was in prison for 7 months. Clergy have been taken into custody for quite some time. I think the shortest period of time that people spent in prison from clergy perspective, because he had taken basically 7 bishops and 24 priests, alongside dozens of laymen. So the first group of people that came out was in January. So from September to January, that is 4 months.
Right.
And then we came back here in 1989. He was asked to come and start St. Mercurius and St. Abraham, where we are in right now. And he served here for the rest of his life, going back to Egypt every year for a month to visit his flock in St. George Sporting.
Yeah.